Hello and welcome back to another new edition of Windows and Current Affairs. And today we're going to be giving taking a comprehensive look over what's happening in Egypt in the sense of development and renovation and upgrading with the system overall. Of course, a new republic and infrastructural projects and health projects and you name it. And in the span of only less than 10 years, a whole new face of Egypt is being affected and is achieved, and a new republic is born. And with the new republic comes this digitalization and modernization of the face of new Egypt. And this is going to be our topic for today, the modernization and digitalization of Egypt, and especially the new Egypt, in order to cope with the new millennium. And we're very delighted to be having with us live here in the studio Engineer Mohamed Azzam, a board member, International Association Management of Technology. Good evening, Engineer Azzam. How are you doing?
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to be with you today.
Our real pleasure. Let us first talk about the renovation in its own right. I mean, the definition of renovation is so wide. I mean, what does it mean now in the modern age to renovate a nation? Does it only mean technology and digitalization, or also renovation with the awareness, renovation with the education? I mean, what are the main pillars of development or renovation?
Thank you for this question. Actually, technology is the main pillar.
Of course.
Without technology, you couldn't achieve anything, especially in 21st century dynamics. Technology is always the key for development, is the main locomotive for any progression and development in Egypt and all over the world. This has been there for centuries now, since the first industrial revolution back to late 18th century. Of course, technology is always changing the dynamics of how we conduct business, how we do our work, how we learn. Technology is the main driver for growth, the main driver for job creation, the main driver for having a competitive nation. And competitive nation is not an option now. You need to be competitive all the time to have a footprint within the global system. We've seen a lot of development in this regard in Egypt since the inception of the new republic, actually, which is launched almost 10 years ago. And now Egypt has a vision for 2030. And if you look at the vision of Egypt 2030, you can find technology and innovation is embedded in every pillar and every sector and subsector within the vision of 2030.
Right. It is very obvious that not only our president is keen or have a vision for 2030, I mean for the new Egypt, and a plan that is set for development, but also for dividing this development or spreading this development equally, on equal foot over the whole nation. I mean, he does not intend to develop one place and neglect the other, or prioritize one place over the other. No, he has a vision for everywhere, which is so difficult, of course, because there are some sectors and some places that are so difficult to be modernized or digitalized or developed easily. And we're going to discuss this also in detail. Explain to us, or if you like to elaborate over the vision of President El-Sisi to develop with every sector in Egypt all at one time and equally on equal foot everywhere in Egypt. And how is that going to happen?
Thank you again. This is very important because we are living in the era of connected sectors. Every sector is quite connected to other sectors, so that's why you cannot leave any sector behind. You cannot modernize your trade system without modernizing your manufacturing system. You cannot having a competitive economy without having a competitive healthcare system. You cannot boost your competitiveness unless you have a robust ICT infrastructure. You cannot progress on the ladder of competitiveness on the global level without having innovation and technology development. So it's all interconnected. That's why it's like a pyramid, actually, as if you are building a pyramid. The base of the pyramid is always public policy that supports the development from an inclusive perspective. This followed by having a robust ICT infrastructure, because without ICT infrastructure you cannot do anything. You cannot progress any sector. You cannot develop any sector. So having the basic or up to standard and having state-of-the-art ICT infrastructure is not becoming an option, is not a luxury anymore. This should be followed by having a resilient healthcare system. We've seen this during the COVID outbreak. Without having the state-of-the-art ICT infrastructure, without having a resilient healthcare sector, you wouldn't be able to overcome the consequences of such international health crisis. And this should be followed by having infrastructure. Infrastructure is not talking about the physical infrastructure anymore. Of course, physical infrastructure is pivotal for any development, because if you have manufacturing system, you need to have a trade system that's capable to take such products and services to the market. And without having the physical infrastructure that includes roads, that includes seaports, that includes airports, that includes development of Suez Canal, that includes having the railway projects that are taking place all over Egypt on the domestic level and on the national level. And of course you need to invest in universities and research and development institutions. This is becoming part of the infrastructure, by the way, according to the latest research and latest articles developed by the prestigious international organization like the World Bank, the World Economic Forum, and so on and so forth. So now we have research universities, now we have entrepreneurship universities. So investing in universities and education system, investing in R&D institutions is becoming also part of the infrastructure, the basic infrastructure that each country should invest in. And this is what we're witnessing in Egypt for the last 7-8 years now. Again, you also need to modernize your manufacturing system. And you cannot modernize your manufacturing system unless you employ and embed technology in the manufacturing system to have a competitive manufacturing lines that capable to produce quality products and services to the market, because the market is becoming very competitive by nature. Due to the globalization, that the markets are interconnected, and you can obtain the product and services from all over the world using the digital platforms. So producing services and products that are meeting the taste of the international market, again, is not becoming an option. This followed by having a role for the small and medium enterprises, because you need to have small and medium enterprises all the time, because they are the key driver for employment. For example, all over the world, small and medium enterprises representing like 80% of the global economy, and they are responsible for more than 60% or even 70% of employment worldwide. And of course, clustering such small and medium enterprises into economic clusters to serve a certain purpose and to enhance even the competitiveness of these small and medium enterprises. And again, technology plays a pivotal role and critical role in developing and making such small and medium enterprises more resilient, more competitive, capable to serve the overall economy. This should be also followed by having a modernized trade system, because if you have a product and you don't have the means to market and sell these products, of course, there is no meaning of having such a product. So having a modernized trade system that's capable to use the physical infrastructure as well as the virtual infrastructure, because we are living in a connected world. We are living in, you cannot separate now the virtual world from the physical world when it comes to the supply chain. This another lesson we learned from the COVID crisis and the disruption and disturbance happened to the what's called the supply chain all over the world. And this one of the great lessons that, again, technology is very important by merging the physical world with the virtual world for having a resilient supply chain system that is capable to deal with the unexpected challenges that we are facing all over the world when it comes to the supply chain. And of course, this definitely and ultimately will reflect on your GDP as a country and the GDP per capita as for individuals and citizens. And of course, this is the ultimate goal of the government of Egypt and the Egyptian state, for sure.
When we talk about modernizing and digitalizing all those sectors, I mean, on different facets of life, we should also improve the human qualities and the how humans are receiving this new information, this new era, how they are coping with it. How can this go side by side with digitalization, with modernization of our age? I mean, there are some people who, or probably citizens, would need rehabilitation, would need qualifying themselves to be able to adapt to this new life, probably get trained, get acquainted, and have enough awareness about how important this life is going to be to their livelihoods and to their life system, I mean, at large. So if you like to elaborate.
Sure. Actually, human development is part of the digital transformation. Actually, you cannot have a competitive digital economy or a technology-based economy or knowledge-based economy without upgrading the skills of the people. And this, of course, is very challenging all over the world because the technology is disrupting the job market. And there is a recent report or study by the World Economic Forum. It was published almost last April, almost something like 4 months ago, talking about we need to reskill 40% of our labor force. And reskilling now needs to be fast and capable to comprehend the dynamics of the new technologies and the effect of new technologies on the job market. So we've seen a lot of initiatives for reskilling people here in Egypt, for equipping people with the basic ICT skills or dealing with technology at large. And preparing youth and mainly the students in the higher education sector, as well as the vocational training sector, to equip them with the digital skills that are required by the job market. Because this is very critical and it's becoming very fundamental to have qualified labor force for the job market. So we've seen a lot of training programs that are taking place all over Egypt. And we've seen even more focus on the high-tech schools and universities and the applied tech schools and universities that are we are witnessing so many now institutions and universities are specialized in the area of technology and business practices and combining technology with the business practices. And also we have the technical education system that which is capable to provide the required skills for going to job market, that including sustainability, because sustainability is becoming a very promising sector for creating more jobs. Because actually the main three drivers for having more jobs or creating more jobs in the market is the green transformation of industries. This will avail millions of new jobs, of course, as well as the new technologies that would avail also new types of jobs, because technology is always altering the job market and the job description of the labor force, not eradicating or making technology as a replacement for humans. This notion is not 100% correct. Actually, technology is reshaping or altering the jobs what we are doing, not making technology as a replacement for humans, unless in high-risk jobs like research and rescue, like the mining economic sector, and so on and so forth. As well as the global economic climate is either helping or harming the job market. So combining all this together, this could be transformed into programs, lifelong learning programs, because we need to learn how to learn all the time. We cannot depend on the skills belongs to the last decade for tomorrow's job.
The innate skills.
This is actually, it's becoming a mandate for everyone. The most important skill now in the job market that you need to have as an individual is to learn how to learn, and to learn how to learn fast, because nobody will wait for me to regain or acquire new skills in a long time anymore. Maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would need 3 to 6 months to acquire a new skill. Now I need 3 to 6 weeks to acquire the new skills. So the most important aspect now is to learn how to learn, and to have the ability of critical thinking, to have the ability of creative thinking, for managing time, for paying attention to details, and to be aware that technology is always changing the dynamics of the job market. So I have to keep an eye on how technology will alter the job market, how technology would change the requirements for the new jobs, because eventually technology is adding jobs, not eradicating jobs.
Technology adds jobs, but you talked about something that is very debatable, which is technology going to replace humans? This has divided communities and societies into, dissected societies into two camps. Some are saying that social intelligence is going to replace, the element of, human resources as a workforce on any level. And some are saying, like you kindly mentioned, that it will never replace the human force, and it will always be the priority taken for humans. But practically speaking, digitalization and technology is already sweeping its way of over human force on every sector, on every phase of, wherever we go, anywhere else you like to do something, the services, public services, or online services, even writing skills, whatever we think of doing is done by, social intelligence.
Again, anything can be automated, will be automated. This is the nature of the technology. That's why technology is not eradicating jobs, it's changing jobs. So if you do a mechanical work, a routine work, with some certain skill set today, but technology tomorrow will automate this routine job, and definitely the enterprises, the governments will use such technology. But the technology will require certain new skills. If I'm not capable to acquire such new skill set, this would be my problem, my personal problem. So the ability to keep my eye on the new skills and to train myself on the new skills and to learn how to learn and acquire such new skills, this becoming the individual responsibility actually, because time changing, technology changing, and technology is always forcing new business models that nobody can tell and nobody can anticipate, nobody can imagine sometimes what would be the new business model. So my ability to acquire the new skills as fast as I can is becoming a fundamental for keeping me within the job market. And this happened during the first industrial revolution back in late 1700, when the technology transformed the society from agriculture-based society to industrial-based society. It eradicated some jobs, but it opened new horizons for new jobs. Always the key here is, am I able to acquire the new skills to go to the job market? If I'm not, I wouldn't be able to acquire the new jobs. Of course, this would be a problem. That's why the governments, and even the governments all over the world, is trying to provide programs to citizens, to all professionals, to help them to gain new skills all the time to match the new job market and the dynamics of the new job market based on the technology progression that's changing everything. So there's always a room. And if you look at the sum of the net sum between the jobs would be lost due to automation and digitalization and the role of technology within the job market and the new jobs that will be added, of course it will be in favor of the new jobs of added. The sum is always positive. But the job here is different. The skills here is different. So my responsibility as an individual, I would need to acquire such skills, the new skills, as much as I can. Otherwise, my skills will be outdated. So nobody will
as a human.
As a human, of course.
Right, but then I mean, which is much cheaper? I mean, when we build institutions, when we do some health programs, some industrial programs, I mean, digitalized, all inclusive, would it be much easier to be through social intelligence or through some human forces?
Of course, if you look at the mass production process, of course, we are using machines all the time. And you would be surprised that artificial intelligence has been used, the robotics has been used in automotive industry almost for the last 6 years. Back to 1960, the robotics system was in the manufacturing lines from 1960s. So I'm not talking here about a new thing. That's why there is a new notion, there is a new concept in the job market, is what's called human-machine coordination, and human will supervise the machines. And this needs also new skills that I need to acquire. So the key here is always my ability to acquire the new required skills. Because I cannot stand in front of the progression of technology. Nobody can do it on the individual level, and
there is no debate about it. But
no way.
To cope with it and live with it at its best is the problem. But also speaking about if we are improving our lives and moving, I mean, adapting to the modern age and upgrading our skills to cope with technology and all that, there are some sectors that could never or could be left without being digitalized. I mean, what are the main sectors that are supposed to be digitalized immediately in governments? I mean, while we are planning to be able to move into the new age and a new republic and everything, what government should we choose first and then second, and I mean respectively?
All sectors. The answer is all sectors. You cannot leave any sector without employing and embedding technology in it. Otherwise, the sector will be not competitive enough and will harm the whole economic system. So part of the digital transformation is not about availing public services to citizens and businesses online. Actually, digital transformation that includes the modernization of the banking sector, the modernization of the payment sector, the modernization of the manufacturing sector, the agriculture sector, the service sector, the legal structure to cope with that technology, of course, progression, to have an education system that is capable to provide the required skills for students to help them to go to the job market. That includes innovation, of course, because using the technology is a great thing, but what makes difference is owning the technology. So you need to invest in innovation, and that's what's happening in Egypt now. We have what's called unicorns startups. Unicorn startup is valuated at $1 billion or more. We have like almost 3 startups becoming unicorns. One of them is working in fintech, was able to attract almost $340 million over the last 12 months. So you need to work on all sectors all together in parallel. For example, you need also to modernize such economic and social sectors to cope with the challenges that we have due to the climate change. For example, you need to lower the carbon footprint of your industrial sector. You need to use technology to be able to have corps that is capable to stand with the climate change that we are witnessing every day now.
Would that need digitalization?
Of course, this needs a huge investment in technology to
it needs human experts.
Actually, technology
and experience.
Technology would help you to reach crops that could bear the climate change, that could produce more producing crops, that use less soil and water.
But then we are going to, I mean, when it comes to nutrition and agriculture and this sector, we would go to the artificial life once again. I mean, going back to nature is one of the most precious and expensive lives. I mean, people tend to go back to nature and plant the crops naturally by human experience and according to human vision. I mean, wouldn't that conflict with the,
not at all. Not at all.
These
because back to what's called the concept and the notion of smart agriculture. You use soil that is quite needed to grow the plant, to grow the produce. So you'll have the most effective way to use the soil, the most effective way to use
the guidelines.
And all such things will be automated remotely, actually. So you will be able to foresee what's happening. You would be able to forecast the changes. You would be able to fight diseases. You would be able to have more or healthier crops and produce. That you have exponential growth in your production capacity. This couldn't be achieved without the technology. Human is there, human always in the middle. However, the great part would be conducted through utilization of technology. Who's monitoring the technology? Humans are monitoring the technology. But you cannot leave technology behind and you would be able to have a competitive economic sector just without having such technology or the utilization of technology to the maximum within any economic sector. You wouldn't be able to compete. You wouldn't be able to have a competitive sector that would be part of the overall competitive economy that leading to having a competitive nation. And of course, the global dynamics or the dynamics of the markets due to globalization and the lesson learned from the COVID outbreak and lesson learned from the Ukrainian crisis taught us that we need to use technology to be competitive, to need to use technology to be resilient, be able to absorb shocks and recover swiftly. So without technology, actually, you wouldn't be able to absorb the shocks like the COVID outbreak and to recover in a swift manner. So technology is always at the backbone of everything.
Right, and how do you assess the advance of technology in the new republic, and how do you rate it? I mean, are you happy for how far we have reached, especially that with the Egyptian the current Egyptian administration, the pace of work is so quick, and nobody can ever imagine it except only Egyptians who live with it and already are acquainted according to the directives of President Abdel Fattah Sisi. I mean, he likes projects to take the pace so quickly. But how do you assess the digitalization and the advance of technology in that new Egypt? Is it fast enough, or we still have some way to go?
Actually, we have our limits here is the sky.
Really?
And if you invest in technology today, for example, now we are using the 4G mobile networks. Tomorrow we'll have the new technology like the 5G. So we need to invest in 5G. So we always, it's the investment in the infrastructure, in the ICT infrastructure is non-stop operation. You need always to invest in training, and we are investing in training for equipping youth, especially youth, with the ICT skills, or making them capable to work in the ICT business sector. You are modernizing your agriculture system, you are modernizing your healthcare system, you are modernizing your manufacturing system, you are modernizing your service sectors. We've seen a lot of development are taking place in the logistics hubs and the sea and airports now in Egypt. You are progressing on the ladder of innovation all the time. The community of high-tech startups is growing every day, and we've seen this of the size of investment coming to this sector. Actually, it was like almost 300 million US dollar a year ago. Now it's more than 550 million US dollars, almost doubled over a year. The number of startups attracted investment last year, we are talking about 40. Now we are talking about almost 80. It's almost the double again. So it's non-stop journey. So if you are doing something, you need to have a sort of a benchmark to the international community in this regards. When it comes to infrastructure, it comes to the quality of projects by the high-tech startups, the quality of investment that are taking place in such a sector. So it's ongoing process. That's why you see efforts in providing a public service through Digital Egypt platform, for example. Now we have like 7.5 million subscribers to the platform, and they made like 40 million transactions over a span of less than a year. And this number is increasing daily. If you look at the financial inclusion, we were like 30%, now we are talking about 60-65% over the last 3 years. Look at the size of, or the percentage of mobile payment are taking place. Look at the progression and investment in smart agriculture projects are taking place. Look at the new manufacturing facilities and plants that are under construction now in Egypt. You can find they are using the state-of-the-art fourth industrial revolution concepts over there. So you cannot do anything without having technology and the proper utilization of technology within the core of each economic sector and service sector. Otherwise, you will be outdated. That's why you can find IT or ICT projects are taking place within every economic and social sector now in Egypt, which is very important. Of course, we need more, and we will always need more because it's the technology is changing. So that's why I need to use the latest state-of-the-art technology all the time. And technology is evolving, so I'm in a quite need of using the latest technology all the time. Again, for the sake of example, if I have now 4G or fourth generation mobile network, and tomorrow we'll have 5G, we need to invest in 5G and use this technology, otherwise you'll be outdated, and of course this will affect or harm your competitiveness on the social and economic level.
So that means that we always, also a very important element we have to recognize is that we always have to keep up with the momentum.
Definitely, otherwise we'll be outdated, and due to the
not
pace
everybody
of
have
technology.
that particular knowledge. But on that note, very important note, of course, very delighted to have you, Engineer Mohamed Azzam. You are a board member of International Association and Management of Technology. We'd like to thank you so much, as
thank
usual.
you, always a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much.
It's a great honor to have you, a real pleasure. And I guess that would bring us to the end of this edition of Windows on Current Affairs. Many thanks to all of you. Until we see you again next week, that's goodbye.